morning and Merry Christmas, KXP. I'm Rayleigh.
And I'm JJ. And Rayleigh.
Yes.
We're still on the farm.
We are still at the farm, that's right.
It's so much fun. Hey guys, we're still in our series called Searching, the Search for a Savior. And first, we have to do something important.
What's that, JJ?
It's our memory verse.
Our memory verse, yes, that's right.
And the memory verse comes from 1 John 4:14, and it says, "We have seen that the Father sent His Son to be a Savior of the world. That is what we teach."
I hope you guys have worked on memorizing that verse. I love that verse so much, JJ. And we're actually gonna say our big idea together one more time, which is Jesus came to be our Savior.
That's right.
Hey JJ, I don't know about you, but as we get close to Christmas, I think a lot about gifts and presents, and I bet you do too. But did you know that the greatest gift we've ever been given is the gift of Jesus Christ? Now, when Jesus came to be our Savior and our King, He wasn't born in a fancy setting like a palace. He was actually born in a really simple setting like a barn. So I can't wait for you to hear today's story from our friend Jana. And JJ, we gotta tell them one more thing before we go.
Merry Christmas!
Good morning, friends, and welcome to KXP. We have been on a journey through the Old Testament with God's chosen people, the Israelites. We learned that God's people were searching for a family, a home, and a leader. We have seen how God walked with His people and never abandoned them. God gave the Israelites leaders and kings to help them along the way, but no leader was perfect, not until God sent Jesus to earth. Jesus would come to save His people. Jesus came to save people like me and you. Jesus came to be our Savior. In the past few weeks, we have learned that God wanted His people to have hope. He planned to send one person to bring hope to everyone all time. Prophets told of His coming and prepared the way for the Messiah. God sent an angel with a very special message for Mary. She was going to be a part of God's big story to bring the Messiah into the world. The Messiah would come into the world as a baby, just like all other humans. Let's jump into the reason we celebrate Christmas, the birth of Jesus. Today, our true story is found in the New Testament in the book of Luke. The book of Luke is called one of our gospel writings because it tells of the good news of Jesus. We will read from Luke chapter 2 today. Luke 2, verse 3, "And everyone went to their own town to register." Verse 4, "So Joseph also went up to the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David." The ruler of Rome made a law that everyone in the Roman land would need to go to his or her hometown to register. The ruler wanted to count all the people that lived in the Roman land. To obey the Roman law, young Mary and her husband Joseph had to travel to Bethlehem. They didn't have cars or planes back then. They had to walk a long distance on foot or ride a donkey. Mary was almost ready to give birth to her baby, and the trip was probably uncomfortable for her. To make the trip to Bethlehem, Mary and Joseph had to travel over 100 miles, and it took them over 5 days to get there. Now let's keep reading in Luke 2, verse 6. "While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born." After a very long journey, Mary and Joseph finally made it to Bethlehem. They were probably very tired from traveling, because remember, Mary was close to having her baby. Let's keep reading in verse 7. "And she gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him in clothes and placed him in a manger because there were no guest rooms available for them." Mary and Joseph couldn't find a room to rent to stay in for the night. All of the rooms were full because so many people were in town to be counted. Mary and Joseph weren't able to stay in a nice place. The only place that Mary and Joseph could find to rest and wait for Mary to give birth was a barn. Their resting spot was with the animals. Just as the angel told Mary months earlier, she gave birth to a son and they named him Jesus. Jesus was born in a barn. Can you believe that? Mary laid him in a manger where the animals would eat from. God's people were not prepared for the way that the Messiah came into the world. But what happens next is amazing. God chose ordinary people like me and you to spread the good news of Jesus' birth. God planned to use shepherds in His big story. So let's see what happens next. Luke 2, verse 8 says, "And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified." God sent an angel to speak to the shepherds. The shepherds were scared at first because they didn't know what was happening. They had never seen anything like this before. They may have wondered, why is this angel talking to us? They were just ordinary shepherds tending to their sheep, but the angel encouraged them and let them know everything was going to be okay. Luke 2, verse 10. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all of the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. You will find a baby wrapped in clothes lying in a manger." The angel came to deliver a special message. The angel wanted to tell them the good news that Jesus had been born. What God had promised had finally come true. A Savior would be born to rescue all people. Jesus is the Son of God, the Savior they've been waiting for. Then the angel told the shepherds how they would know it was Jesus. They would know it was him because he would be in a barn, laying in a manger, wrapped up in some warm clothes. The shepherds knew that they had been given a very special message, but they knew they had a mission too. Luke 2, verse 15 and 16. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and their baby, who was lying in a manger. The shepherds had been given a very powerful message. They knew they needed to take action. The shepherds left their field and traveled to Bethlehem to find Jesus. And guess what happened? They found Jesus in a barn, lying in a manger, wrapped up in the warm clothes, just like the angel said he would be. The story doesn't end there, though. Let's keep reading in Luke 2, verse 17 and 18. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told to them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. After the shepherds heard the good news and saw Jesus, they told everyone they knew about Jesus and what had happened to them. Just like the shepherds, we have a part in God's big story too. When we hear good news, we want to share it, right? Well, the best news there ever could be is that Jesus was born. He came to save all people who believe in him. That's the good news that's worth sharing every day. We are all just ordinary people that God uses to spread the good news about Jesus. We can tell everyone that Jesus came to be our Savior, and we can tell others we have seen that the Father sent his Son to be the Savior of the world. Jesus is the hope that came in every message that God sent. Merry Christmas.